Chapter 10. The old Dragon King's foolish schemes transgress heaven's decrees. You'll just have to tell me a time. Prime Minister Wei's letter seeks help from an official of the dead. I felt like that needed more stank. From an official of the dead. No, you don't need to find it. I will help you find it. We'll just leave it at that. Now, that would be piracy, G, and I would never do that. I would never do that. I would simply help people find their lost copies, is all. That's all. For the time being, we shall make no mention of Guan Grui serving in his post and Xuan Zhang practicing austerities. We tell you now about two worthies who lived on the banks of the river Jing outside the city of Chang'an, a fisherman by the name of Zhang Shao and a woodman by the name of Li Ding. The two of them were scholars who had... Oop, there's my plosives. I couldn't tell you why, and it's not my place to comment. I don't know. As somebody else would say, it is not no. The two of them were scholars who had passed no official examination, mountain folks who knew how to read. I feel like it needed a semicolon. One day in the city of Chang'an, after they had sold the wood on one's back and the carp in the other's basket, they went into a small inn and drank until they were slightly tipsy. Each carrying a bottle, they followed the bank of the Jing River and walked slowly back. Brother Li, said Zhang Zhao, in my opinion, those who strive for fame will lose their lives on account of fame. Those who live in quest of fortune will perish because of riches. Those who have titles sleep embracing a tiger. And those who receive official favors walk with snakes in their sleeves. Whoa, that's a superpower. When you think of it, their lives cannot compare with our carefree existence. Close to the blue mountains and fair waters. We cherish poverty and pass our days without having to quarrel with fate. Brother Zhang, said Li Ding, there's a great deal of truth in what you say, but your fair waters cannot match my blue mountains. On the contrary, said Zhang Shao, your blue mountains cannot match my fair waters, in testimony of which I offer a lyric to the tune of Butterflies Enamored of Flowers. That says, in a small boat over 10,000 miles of twisty waves, I lean to the silent single sail, circled by sound... yeah, I hope so. Circled by sounds of the mermaid fish. My mind cleanse. Yeah, I'm trying not to do the poofs into the microphone here, but this thing is as loud as it possibly can. I'm acutely aware of my plosive action. And getting myself louder would require basically going into lecturing voice rather than simply reading voice. So I think your system might just be a little crazy. We were doing some poetry. Where are we in the poetry? Circled by sounds of the mermaid fish, my mind cleansed, my care purged, here lacks wealth or fame. Leisurely I pick some stems of bulrushes and reeds. Counting the seagulls is pleasure to be told. Politely disagree. At willowed banks and reeded bays, my wife and son join my joyous laugh. I sleep most soundly as wind and wave recede. No shame, no glory, nor any misery. Li Ding said, your fair waters are not as good as my blue mountains. I also have as testimony a lyric poem to the tune of Butterflies Enamored of Flowers that says, at dense forest's pine-seeded corner, I hear, wordless, the oriole. Its deft tongues a tuneful pipe. Pale reds and bright greens announce the warmth of spring. Summer comes abruptly, so passes time. Then autumn arrives, for it's an easy change, with fragrant golden flowers most worthy of our joy. And cold winter descends, swift as a finger snaps. Ruled by no one, I'm free in all four climes. I don't think these are gods, though. These are just guys. One of them's a fisherman and the other's a lumberjack. The fisherman said, Your blue mountains are not as good as my fair waters, which offer me some fine things to enjoy. As testimony, I have here a lyric to the tune of The Partridge Sky. The fairyland cloud and water do suffice. Boat adrift, oars accumbent, this is my home. I split fishes live and cook green turtles. I steam purple crabs and boil red shrimps. Green reed shoots, water plant sprouts. Better still, the chicken heads, the water caltrops. Oh, that's dangerous. Lotus roots, old or young. The tender celery leaves, arrowheads, white caltrops, and niao ying flowers. Man, they've got two different types of caltrops. People are getting hurt out there. I think Woodman wins. The woodman said, Your fair waters are not as good as my blue mountains, which offer me some fine things to enjoy. Excuse me. Meow. It's Niao Ying, unfortunately, and I probably mispronounced it. But although flowers that did come, it would be kind of cute. As testimony, I too have a lyric to the tune of The Partridge Sky. On tall, craggy peaks that touch heaven's edge, a grass house, a straw hut would make up my home. Cured fowls, smoked geese surpass turtles or crabs. Hares, antelopes, and deer best fishes or shrimps. The scented chun leaves, the yellow lian sprouts, bamboo shoots, and mountain tea are even better. Purple plums, red peaches, prunes and apricots ripe, sweet pears, sour dates, and cassia flowers. I think G's on board with this one here. I think she'd take a smoked geese over most fish. The fisherman said, Your blue mountains are truly not as good as my fair waters. I have another lyric to the tune of The Heavenly Immortal. One leaf-like skiff goes where'er I choose to stay. I fear not 10,000 folds of wave or mist. I drop hooks and cast nets to catch fresh fish. With no sauce or fat, it's tastier yet. Old wife and young son complete my home. When fishes are plenty, I leave for Chengan marts, and barter them for wine I drink till drunk. A choir coat shrouds me, on autumnal stream I lie, snoring asleep, nor fret or care. I love not the glory or the pomp of man. The woodman said, Your fair waters are still not as good as my blue mountains. I too have a poem to the tune of The Heavenly Immortal. A few straw houses built beneath a hill, pines, orchards, plums, bamboos, lovable all. Passing groves, climbing mountains, I seek dried woods. With none to chide, I sell as I wish. How much, how little depends on my yield. I use the cash to buy wine as I please. Earthen crocks, clay flagons, both put me at ease. Sodden with wine, in the pine shade I lie. No anxious thoughts, no gain or loss, no care. There's a poof. No care for this world's failure or success. If I knew what the tune was, I could take a crack at it, but I have absolutely no clue. And also, I don't think anybody wants to hear me singing, so it's a win-win for everybody involved. Just imagine it. I use the cash to buy wine as I please. I acquaint myself with the ladies as they please. I engage in various acts of larceny. I enrich myself and display my chariots proudly. This is my life. I believe, actually, if we're going to be splitting hairs, this is filking. It's where you take somebody else's song and put your own lyrics in it. At least that's the word I saw for it. This is like a Usenet thing. Or actually, it was even a FidoNet thing, filking. YOLO! The fisherman said, Brother Lee, your mountain life is not as pleasing as my livelihood on the waters. As testimony, I have a lyric to the tune of Moon Over West River. Oh, I was thinking there was a Dead Kennedys song, Moon Over Marin, but unfortunately, not quite enough lyrics. Wouldn't quite work. Red smart weeds, thick blooms, glow in moonlight. Yellow rush leaves tousled, wind shaken. The blue sky, clean and distant, an empty Chew River. Drawing my lines, I stir a deep pool of stars. In rank and file, big fishes enter the net. Teams of tiny perches swallow the hooks. Their taste is special when they're caught and cooked. My laughter presides over rivers and lakes. He hasn't really offered anything new here other than the glowing weeds. The woodman says, Brother Zhang, your life on the waters is not as pleasing as my livelihood in the mountains. As testimony, I also have a lyric to the tune of Moon Over West River. Dead leaves, parched creepers choking the road, snapped poles, aged bamboos crowding the hill, dried tendrils and sedges in disheveled growth. I break and take, my ropes truss the load, willow trunks hollowed by insects, pine branches clipped off by wind. I gather and stockpile, ready for winter's cold. Change them for wine or cash as I wish. They should just switch places. Oh, they're still going to keep going. My good lord. The fisherman said, Though your life in the mountains is not bad, it is still not as charming and graceful as mine on the fair waters. As testimony, I have a lyric to the tune of Immortal by the River. Falling tide moves my one boat away. I rest my oars. My song comes with the night. The choir coat, the waning moon, how charming they are. No seagull darts up from fright as rosy clouds spread through the sky. I sleep without care at reeded isles. Still snoozing when the sun is high, I work after my own plans and desires. Vassals in cold nights tend in court. Could theirs match my pleasure and peace? Mic drop. The woodman said, The charm and grace of your fair waters cannot be compared with those of my blue mountains. I, too, have a testimony to the tune of Immortal by the River, which I also in a very polite format. I walk autumn's frosty paths, dragging my axe. In nights cool, I pull back my load. Stranger still, with temples stuck with flowers, I push clouds to find my way out. Moonstruck, I call open my gate. Rustic wife and young son greet me with smiles. On straw bed and wooden pillow I lie. Steamed pears and cooked millet are soon prepared. The urn's brew, newly mellowed, will add to my secret joys. The fisherman said, All these things in our poem have to do with our livelihood, the occupations with which we support ourselves. But your life is not as good as these leisurely moments of mine, for which I have as testimony a regulated poem. The poem says, Idly I watch the blue skies white cranes fly. My boat stops streamside, my doors half closed. By the sail my son's taught to knot fishing threads. Rowing stops, I join my wife to dry the nets. My mind is still, thus I know the water's calm. Myself secure, hence I feel the wind is light. I freely don my green coir and bamboo hat. That beats wearing a robe with purple sash. The woodman said, Your leisurely moments are not as good as mine, for which I also have a regulated poem as testimony. The poem says, Idly I watch billows of white clouds fly, or sit in my thatched hut's closed bamboo gates. I open leisurely books to teach my son. At times I face guests to play circling chess. Ooh. My cane strolls with my songs through floral paths. Aroused, I climb green mountains, lute in hand, straw sandals, hemp sashes, and coarse cloth quilts. All beak silk garments when your heart is free. I'm with the woodman here. So I think he's won that one. I think it's like chess, but you have to spin around on the spot like a lot before you make your move. Like for every second you take, you have to spin once. So if you're dawdling, you gotta do a lot of spinning. That's my take on it. So it's dizzy chess. Zheng Xiao said, Li Ding, the two of us indeed are. Lucky to have light songs to amuse us. We don't need castanets or flasks of gold. But the poems we have recited thus far are occasional pieces, hardly anything unusual. Why don't we attempt a long poem in the linking verse manner and see how fares the conversation between the fisherman and the woodman? Li Ding said, That's a marvelous proposal, Brother Zhang. Please begin. Your flow is weak, your rhymes are lame, your poetic metaphor tenuously crafted, and all the same. Yo. I felt like I needed it. Your flow is weak, your rhymes are lame, your poetic metaphor tenuously... Nah, that doesn't quite work, never mind. Didn't have the meter there. Yo. But the poems Okay, I've already said that. My boat rests on the green water's mist and wave. My home's deep in the mountains and open plains. I love the streams and bridges as springtime swells. Care for ridges veiled by the clouds of dawn. My fresh carps from Longmen are often cooked. My dried woods, worm-rotted, are daily burnt. Nets of many kinds will support my age. Both pole and rope will see me to the end. I lie in a skiff and watch wild geese fly. I sprawl on grassy paths when wild swans cry. Weak in a leak that's been drowned by the creek. Word! I have no stake in the fields of mouth and tongue, though through seas of scandal I've not made my way. Hung dried by the stream, my net's like brocade. Polished new on rocks, my axe shows a fine blade. Beneath autumn's moon I oft fish alone. In spring hills all quiet I meet no one. I guess there should be no own, but oh well. Fishes are changed for wine for me and wife to drink. Firewood is used to buy a bottle for my son. I sing and freely pour on my heart's desire. In songs and sighs there's none to restrain me. I call fellow boatmen to come as brothers. With friends we join the codgers of the wilds. We make rules, play games, and exchange the cups. We break words, remake them when we pass the mugs. Cooked shrimps, boiled crabs are my daily feasts. I'm daily fed by smoked fowls and fried ducks. My unlettered wife makes tea languidly. My mountain wife cooks rice most leisurely. When dawn comes, I lift my staff to stir the waves. At sunrise, I pole my wood to cross big roads. I don coat after rain to catch live carps. Wind blown, I wield my axe to cut dried pines. Hiding tracks to flee the world, I'm like a fool. Blotting name and surname, I play deaf and dumb. Zhang Xiao said, Brother Li, just now I presumed to take the lead and began with the first line of the poem. Well, I think they're just having a sort of a friendly sparring match here. I don't know. At least, hey, tell yourself this. Panurge is not involved. Let's continue. Brother Li, just now I presumed to take the lead and began with the first line of the poem. Why don't you begin this time, and I shall follow you. A rustic who feigns to be romantic, an oldie taking pride in streams and lakes. My lot is leisure, I seek laxity and ease. Shunning talk and gossip, I love my peace. In moonlit nights, I sleep in safe straw huts, not hats. When sky dims, I'm draped with light choir cape. I befriend with ardor both pines and plums. I'm pleased to mingle with egrets and gulls. My mind has no plans for fortune or fame. My ears are deaf to the din of spear and drum. At any time I'd pour my fragrant wine. My day's 3 meals are soups of leafy greens. My living rests on 2 bundles of wood. My trade is my pole fit with hooks and lines. I call our young son to sharpen my axe. I tell my small rogue he should mend our nets. Spring comes, I love to watch the willows green. Warm days gladden the sight of rushes and reeds. To flee summer's heat, I plant new bamboos. I pick young lotus to cool myself in June. When frost descends, the fatted fowls are slain by double ninth. Excuse me. Oh, that's. Yeah. It would have been. I mean, yeah, I would. It would be nice to not only see the original Chinese, but to understand it as well as the rules. So I'm coming in like really, really short. I'd cook the roe-filled crabs. Oh, oh, that would be good. Wow. Hmm. I'd cook the roe-filled crabs. I sleep deep in winter, though the sun is high. When the sky is tall and hazy, I'd not fry. Throughout the year, I roam free in the hills. In all four climes, I sail the lakes at will. Gathering wood, I own the immortals' feel. Dropping my rod, I sport no worldly form. My door's wild blossoms are fragrant and bright. My stem's green water flows calm and serene. Content, I seek not the three dukes' seats. Like a 10-mile city, my nature's firm. Cities, though tall, must resist a siege. Dukes, though of high rank, must the summon heed. Delight in hills and streams is truly rare. Thank heaven, thank earth, let's thank the gods. Wow. So basically, what you're saying is that there's even a bureaucracy for poetry. The two of them thus recited poems and songs and composed linking verses. Arriving at the place where their ways parted, they bowed to take leave of each other. Elder brother Li, said Zheng Shao, take care as you go on your way. When you climb the mountain, be wary of the tiger. If you were harmed, I would find, as the saying goes, one friend missing on the street tomorrow. When Li Ding heard these words, he grew very angry, saying, What a scoundrel you are! Good friends would even die for each other. But you, why do you say such unlucky things to me? If I'm to be harmed by a tiger, your boat will surely capsize in the river. Japanese cola candies. You need to tell G about this. I'll never capsize my boat in the river, said Zhang Shao. Li Ding said, As there are unexpected storms in the sky, so there is sudden weal or woe with man. What makes you so sure that you won't have an accident? Elder brother Li, said Zhang Shao, you say this because you have no idea what may befall you in your business, whereas I can predict what'll happen in my kind of business, and I assure you that I won't have any accident. The kind of living you pick up on the waters, said Li Ding, is an exceedingly treacherous business. You have to take chances all the time. How can you be so certain about your future? Here's something you don't know about, said Zhang Shao. In this city of Chang'an, there's a fortune teller who plies his trade on the West Gate Street. Every day, I give him a golden carp as a present, and he consults the sticks in his sleeve for me. I follow his instructions when I lower my nets, and I've never missed in 100 times. Today, I went again to buy his prediction. He told me to set my nets at the east bend of the Jing River and to cast my line from the west bank. I know I'll come back with a fine catch of fishes and shrimps. When I go up to the city tomorrow, I'll sell my catch and buy some wine, and then I'll get together with you again, old brother. The two men then parted. There is, however, a proverb. What is said on the road is heard in the grass. For you see, it happens that a yaksha on patrol in the Jing River overheard the part of the conversation about not having missed 100 times. He dashed back to the Water Crystal Palace and hastily reported to the Dragon King, shouting, Disaster! Disaster! What sort of disaster? Asked the Dragon King. Your subject, said the Yaksha, was patrolling the river and overheard a conversation between a woodman and a fisherman. Before they parted, they said something terrible. According to the fisherman, there is a fortune teller on the West Gate Street in the city of Chang'an who is most accurate in his calculations. Every day, the fisherman gives him a carp, and then he consults the sticks in his sleeve, with the result that the fisherman has not missed once in 100 times when he casts his line. If such accurate calculations continue, will not all our water kin be exterminated? Where will you find any more inhabitants for the watery region who will toss and leap in the waves to enhance the majesty of the great king? The Dragon King became so angry that he wanted to take the sword and go at once up to Chang'an to slay the fortune teller. But his dragon sons and grandsons, the shrimp and crab ministers, the Samli counselor, the perch subdirector of the minor court, and the carp president of the board of civil office all came from the side and said to him, "Let the great king restrain his anger. The proverb says, 'Don't believe everything you hear.' If the great king goes forth like this, the clouds will accompany you, and the rains will follow you. We fear that the people of Chang'an will be terrified, and heaven will be offended. Since the great king has the power to appear or disappear suddenly, and to transform into many shapes and sizes, let him change into a scholar. Then go to the city of Chang'an and investigate the matter. If there is indeed such a person, you can slay him without delay. But if there is no such person, there is no need to harm innocent people." The Dragon King accepted their suggestion. He abandoned his sword and dismissed the clouds and the rain. Reaching the river bank, he shook his body and changed into a white-robed scholar, truly with features most virile, a stature towering, a stride most stately, so orderly and firm. His speech exalts Kong and Meng. His manner embodies Zhu and Wen. He wears a silk robe of the color of jade, his casual head wraps shaped like the letter 1. Coming out of the water, the Dragon King strode to the west gate in the city of Chang'an. There he found a noisy crowd surrounding someone who was saying in a lofty and self-assured manner, "Those born under the dragon will follow their fate. Those under the tiger will collide with their physiognomies. The branches Yin, Chen, Si, and Hai may be said to fit into the grand scheme, but I fear your birthday may clash with the planet Jupiter." When the Dragon King heard this, he knew that he had come upon the fortune-teller's place. Walking up to it and pushing the people apart, he peered inside to see 4 walls of exquisite writings, a room full of brocaded paintings. Yeah, me too, actually. You can't just buff that out. Smoke unending from the treasure duck. Oh, and such pure water in a porcelain vase. On both sides are mounted Wang Wei's paintings. High above his seat hangs the Guigu form, the ink slab from Duanxi, the golden smoke ink. Both match the great brush of frostiest hair. The crystal balls, Guo Pu's number, neatly face new classics of soothsaying. He knows the hexagrams well. He's mastered the 8 trigrams. He perceives the laws of heaven and earth. He discerns the ways of demons and gods. One tray before him fixes the cosmic hours. His mind clearly orders all planets and stars. Truly, those things to come, and those things past, he beholds as in a mirror. Which house will rise, and which will fall, he foresees like a god. Excuse me. He knows evil and decrees the good. He prescribes death and predicts life. His pronouncements quicken the wind and rain. His brush alarms both spirits and gods. His shop sign has letters to declare his name, the Divine Diviner, Yuan Shucheng. Who was this man? He was actually the uncle of Yuan Tiankang, president of the Imperial Board of Astronomy in the present dynasty. The gentle man was truly a man of extraordinary appearance and elegant features. His name was known throughout the great country, and his art was considered the highest in Chang'an. The Dragon King went inside the door and met the master. After exchanging greetings, he was invited to take the seat of honor while a boy served him tea. The master asked, "What would you like to know?" The Dragon King said, "Please forecast the weather." The master consulted his sticks and made his judgment. Clouds hide the hilltop, and fog shrouds the tree. The rain you divine, tomorrow you'll see. At what hour will it rain tomorrow, and how much rain will there be? Asked the Dragon King. At the hour of the dragon the clouds will gather, said the master, and thunder will be heard at the hour of the serpent. Rain will come at the hour of the horse, and reach its limit at the hour of the sheep. There will be altogether 3 feet, 3 inches, and 48 drops of rain. You had better not be joking now, said the Dragon King, laughing. If it rains tomorrow, and if it is in accordance with the time and the amount you prophesied, I shall present you with 50 taels of gold as my thanks. But if it does not rain, or if the amount and the hours are incorrect, I tell you truly that I shall come back and break your front door to pieces and tear down your shop sign. You will be chased out of Chang'an at once, so that you may no longer seduce the multitude. You may certainly do that, said the master amiably. Goodbye for now. Please come again tomorrow after the rain. The Dragon King took leave and returned to his water residence. He was received by various aquatic deities, who asked, How was the great king's visit to the soothsayer? Yes, said the Dragon King. There is indeed such a person, but he's a garrulous fortune-teller. I asked him when it would rain, and he said tomorrow. I asked him again about the time and the amount, and he told me that clouds would gather at the hour of the dragon, thunder would be heard at the hour of the serpent, and that rain would come at the hour of the horse, and would reach its limit at the hour of the sheep. Altogether there would be 3 feet, 3 inches, and 48 drops of water. I made a wager with him. If it is as he said, I'll reward him with 50 taels of gold. If there is the slightest error, I'll break down his shop and chase him away, so that he will not be permitted to seduce the multitude at Chang'an. The great king is the supreme commander of the 8 rivers, said the Water Kin, laughing. The great dragon deity in charge of rain. Whether there is going to be rain or not, only the great king knows that. How dare he speak so foolishly? That soothsayer is sure to lose. When the dragon's sons and grandsons were laughing at the matter with the fish and crab officials, a voice was heard suddenly in midair announcing, Dragon King of the Jing River, receive the imperial command. Ooh. That unlucky star to the west. Yeah, just getting caught up there. I imagine, like, maybe it was just sort of loosely translated to sound a little bit more understandable to, Anglophone ears. They raised their heads to look and saw a golden-robed guardian, holding the decree of the Jade Emperor and heading straight for the water residence. The Dragon King hastily straightened out his attire and burned incense to receive the decree. After he made his delivery, the guardian rose into the air and left. The Dragon King opened the decree, which said, We bid the 8 Rivers Prince to call up thunder and rain. Pour out tomorrow your grace to benefit Chang'an's race. The instructions regarding the hours and the amount of rain written on the decree did not even differ in the slightest from the soothsayer's prediction. So overwhelmed was the Dragon King that his spirit left him and his soul fled, and only after a while did he regain consciousness. He said to his water kinsman, There is indeed an intelligent creature in the world of dust. How well he comprehends the laws of heaven and earth. I'm bound to lose to him. Let the great king calm himself, said the Sanli counselor. Is it so difficult to get the better of the fortune-teller? Your subject here has a little plan that will silence that fellow for good. When the Dragon King asked what the plan was, the counselor said, If the rain tomorrow misses the timing in the amount specified by a mere fraction, it will mean that his prediction is not accurate. Won't you have one? What's there to stop you, then, from tearing up his shop sign and putting him on the road? The Dragon King took his counsel and stopped worrying. You don't usually take that bit, though. The next day, he ordered the Duke of Wind, the Lord of Thunder, the Boy of the Clouds, and the Mother of Lightning to go with him to the sky above Chang'an. He waited until the hour of the serpent before spreading the clouds, the hour of the horse before letting loose the thunder, the hour of the sheep before releasing the rain, and only by the monkey of the hour did the rain stop. There were only 3 feet and 40 drops of water, since the times were altered by an hour, and the water was changed by 3 inches and 8 drops. After the rain, the Dragon King dismissed his followers and came down from the clouds. I feel like he's also transgressed against the Jade Emperor, and he's going to be in for it. Transformed once again into a scholar dressed in white, he went to the West Gate Street and barged into Yuan Shucheng's shop. Without a word of explanation, he began to smash the shop sign, the brushes, and the ink slab to pieces. The master, however, sat on his chair and remained unmoved, so the Dragon King unhinged the door and threatened to hit him with it, crying, "You're nothing but a bogus prophet of good and evil, an impostor who deludes the minds of the people. Your predictions are incorrect. Your words are patently false. What you told me about the time and quantity of today's rain was utterly inaccurate, and yet you dare sit so smugly and so high on your seat. Leave here at once before you are executed." Still, Yuan Shucheng was not at all intimidated. He lifted up his head and laughed scornfully. "I'm not afraid," he said. "Not in the least. I'm not guilty of death, but I fear that you have committed a mortal crime. You can fool other people, but you can't fool me. I recognize you, all right. You are not a white-robed scholar, but the Dragon King of the Jing River. By altering the times and holding back the quantity of rain, you have disobeyed the decree of the Jade Emperor and transgressed the law of heaven. On the dragon execution block, you won't escape the knife. And here you are, railing at me." When the Dragon King heard these words, his heart trembled and his hair stood on end. He dropped the door quickly, tidied his clothes, and knelt before the master, saying, "I beg the master not to take offense. My previous words were spoken in jest. Little did I realize that my prank would turn out to be such a serious crime. Now I have indeed transgressed the law of heaven. What am I to do? I beseech the master to save me. If you won't, I'll never let you go." "I can't save you," said Shucheng. "I can only point out to you what may be a way of life." Yeah, we have the same opinions of pranks, too. "I'm willing to be instructed," said the dragon. The master said, "You are to be executed tomorrow by the human judge, Wei Zheng, at the 3rd quarter past the hour of noon. If you want to preserve your life, you must go quickly to plead your case before the present Emperor Tang Taizong, for Wei Zheng is the prime minister before his throne. If you can win the emperor's favor, you'll be spared." Hearing this, the dragon took leave with tears in his eyes. Soon the red sun sank down and the moon arose. You see, smoke thickens on purple mountains as homing crows tire. Travelers on distant journeys head for inns. Young wild geese at fords rest on field and sand. The silver stream appears to hasten the time float. Lights fare in a lone village from dying fames. Wind sweeps the burner to clear Taoist yard of smoke. As man fades away in the butterfly dream, the moon moves floral shadows up the garden's rails. The stars are rife as water clocks strike. So swiftly the gloom deepens that it's midnight. Our Dragon King of the Jing River did not even return to his water home. He waited in the air until it was about the hour of the rat, when he descended from the clouds and mist and came to the gate of the palace. At this time, the Tang Emperor was just having a dream about taking a walk outside the palace in the moonlight, beneath the shade of flowers. The dragon suddenly assumed the form of a human being and went up to him. Kneeling, he cried out, "Your Majesty, save me! Save me!" "Who are you?" asked Taizong. "We would be glad to save you." "Your Majesty is the true dragon," said the Dragon King, "but I am an accursed one. Because I have disobeyed the decree of heaven, I am to be executed by a worthy subject of your Majesty, the human judge Wei Zheng. I have therefore come here to plead with you to save me." "If Wei Zheng is to be the executioner," said Taizong, "we can certainly save you. You may leave and not worry." I'd like to investigate that, but I don't even know how to approach the question. The Dragon King was delighted and left after expressing his gratitude. We tell you now about Taizong, who, having awakened, was still turning over in his mind what he had dreamed. Soon it was 3/5 past the hour of the 5th watch, and Taizong held court for his ministers, both civil and martial. You see, smoke shrouding the phoenix arches, incense clouding the dragon domes, light shimmering as the silk screens move, clouds brushing the feather-trimmed flags. I literally said weather-trimmed fangs. What is up with me today? Feather-trimmed flags. Rulers and lords, harmonious as Yao and Shun. Rituals and music solemn as Hans and Zeus. The attendant lamps, the court maiden fans, show their colors in pairs. From peacock screens and unicorn halls, light radiates everywhere. 3 cheers for a long life. A wish for reign everlasting. When a whip cracks 3 times, the caps and robes will bow to the crown. Brilliant palatial blooms, endued by heaven's scent. Pliant bank willows, sung and praised by court music. The screens of pearl, the screens of jade, are drawn high by golden hooks. The dragon phoenix fan, the mountain river fan, rest on top of the royal carriage. The civil lords are noble and refined, the martial lords strong and valiant. The imperial path divides the ranks, the vermilion court aligns the grades. The golden seal and purple sashes bearing the 3 signs will last for millions of years, as heaven and earth. After the ministers had paid their homage, they all went back to standing in rows according to their rank. The Tang Emperor opened his dragon eyes to look at them one by one. Among the civil officials were Feng Shaoling, Du Rihui, Xu Shizi, Xu Jingzong, and Wen Gui. Among the military officials were Mao Sanbao, Duan Zixian, Yan Kaishan, Chen Yaojin, Liu Hongzi, Hu Jingde, and Qin Shubao. Each one of them was standing there in a most solemn manner, but the Prime Minister Wei Zhang was not to be seen anywhere. The Tang Emperor asked Zhu Ziji to come forward and said to him, "We had a strange dream last night. There was a man who paid homage to us, calling himself the Dragon King of the Jing River. He said that he had disobeyed the command of heaven and was supposed to be executed by the human judge Wei Zhang. He implored us to save him, and we gave our consent. Today only Wei Zhang is absent from the ranks. Why is that?" "This dream may indeed come true," answered Shizi, "and Wei Zhang must be summoned to court immediately. Once he arrives, let your majesty keep him here for a whole day and not permit him to leave. After this day, the dragon in the dream will be saved." Oh, okay. Actually, that's kind of cool. Thank you for that, Montrose. The Tang Emperor was most delighted. He gave the order at once to have Wei Zhang summoned to court. We speak now of the Prime Minister Wei Zhang, who studied the movement of the stars and burned incense at his home that evening. He heard the cries of cranes in the air and saw that there was a heavenly messenger holding the golden decree of the Jade Emperor, which ordered him to execute in his dream the old dragon of the Jing River at precisely the 3rd quarter past the noon hour. Having thanked the heavenly grace, our Prime Minister prepared himself in his residence by bathing himself and abstaining from food. He was also sharpening his magic sword and exercising his spirit, and therefore he did not attend court. He was terribly flustered when he saw the royal officer on duty arriving with the summons. Not daring, however, to disobey the Emperor's command, he had to dress quickly and follow the summons into court, kowtowing and asking for pardon before the throne. The Tang Emperor said, "We pardoned indeed our worthy subject." At that time, the various ministers had not yet retired from the court, and only after Wei Zhang's arrival was the curtain drawn up for the court's dismissal. Wei Zhang alone was asked to remain. He rode the golden carriage with the Emperor to enter the chamber for relaxation, where he discussed with the Emperor tactics for making the empire secure and other affairs of state. When it was just about midway between the hour of the serpent and the hour of the horse, the Emperor asked the royal attendants to bring out a large chess set, saying, "We shall have a game with our worthy subject." The various concubines took out the chessboard and set it on the imperial table. After expressing his gratitude, Wei Zheng set out to play chess with the Tang Emperor, both of them moving the pieces step by step into positions. It was completely in accordance with the instructions of the classic of chess. The way of chess exalts discipline and caution. Like, I know there's a couple different Chinese variants of chess which are pretty similar to the versions that we play. Although there's like one of them has a cannon, which you have to leap over another piece in order to attack. And I think the king has like a 3x3 grid it's limited to. The way of chess exalts discipline and caution. The most powerful pieces should remain in the center, the weakest ones at the flanks, and the less powerful ones at the corners. This is a familiar law of the chess player. The law says, you should rather lose a piece than an advantage. When you strike on the left, you must guard your right. When you attack in the rear, you must watch your front. Only when you have a secure front will you also have a rear, and only if you have a secure rear will you maintain your front. The two ends cannot be separated, and yet both must remain flexible and not be encumbered. A broad formation should not be too loose, while a tight position should not be too constricted. Rather than clinging on to save a single piece, it is better to sacrifice it in order to win. Rather than moving without purpose, it is better to remain stationary in order to be self-supportive. When your adversary outnumbers you, your first concern is to survive. When you outnumber your adversary, you must strive to exploit your force. He who knows how to win will not prolong his fight. He who is a master of positions will not engage in direct combat. He who knows how to fight will not suffer defeat, and he who knows how to lose will not panic. I know how to lose. It's actually pretty easy. For chess begins with proper engagement, but ends in unexpected victory. If your enemy, even without being threatened, is bringing up his reinforcement, it is a sign of his intention to attack. If he deserts a small piece without trying to save it, he may be stalking a bigger piece. If he moves in a casual manner, he is a man without thoughts. Response without thought is the way to defeat. The classic of poetry says, approach with extreme caution, as if facing a deep canyon. Such is the meaning thereof, the poem says. The chessboard's the earth, the pieces are the sky, the colors are light and dark as the whole universe. When playing reaches that skillful, subtle stage, boast and laugh with the old immortal of chess. The two of them, emperor and subject, played chess until 3/4 past the noon hour, but the game was not yet finished. Suddenly Wei Zheng put his head on the table and fell fast asleep. Taizong laughed and said, our worthy subject truly has worn himself out for the state and exhausted his strength on behalf of the empire. He has therefore fallen asleep and spite himself. Taizong allowed him to sleep on. It did not arouse him. In a little while, Wei Zheng awoke and prostrated himself on the ground, saying, your subject deserves 10,000 deaths. Your subject deserves 10,000 deaths. Just now I lost consciousness for no reason at all. I beg your majesty's pardon for such insult against the emperor. What insult is there? Said Taizong. Arise. Let us forget the old game and start a new one instead. Wei Zheng expressed his gratitude. As he put his hand on a piece, a loud clamor was heard outside the gate. It was occasioned by the ministers Qi Shubao and Shu Mugong, who arrived with a dragon head dripping with blood. Oh no. I'm sorry, Montreth. But at least there's a recording you'll be able to listen to in time to catch up the bits that you missed. There's a dragon head dripping with blood. Throwing it in front of the emperor, they said, your majesty, we have seen the seas turn shallow and the rivers run dry, but a thing as strange as this we have never even heard of. Taizong arose with Wei Zheng and said, where did this thing come from? South of the 1,000-step corridor, replied Shubao and Mugong. At the crossroads, this dragon head fell from the clouds. Your lowly subjects dare not withhold it from you. In alarm, the Tang Emperor asked Wei Zheng, what's the meaning of this? Turning to kowtow to him, Wei Zheng said, this dragon was executed just now by your subject in his dream. When the Tang Emperor heard this, he was seized with fear and said, When our worthy minister was sleeping, I did not see any movements of body or limb, nor did I perceive any scimitar or sword. How could you have executed this dragon?" Wei Zheng replied, "My lord, although my body was before my master, I left your majesty in my dream. My body before my master faced the unfinished game. With dim eyes fully closed, I left your majesty in my dream to ride the blessed cloud. With spirit most eager and alert, that dragon on the dragon execution block was bound up there by celestial hosts. Your subject said, 'For breaking heaven's law, you are worthy of death. Now by heaven's command, I end your wretched life.'" I'm not streaming through Discord. Why would I stream through Discord? I never do that. The dragons listened in grief. Your subject bestirred his spirit. The dragons, retrieving claws and scales to await his death, your subject bestirred his spirit, lifting robe and taking step to hold high his blade. With one loud crack, the knife descended, and thus the head of the dragon fell from the sky. When Taizong heard these words, he was filled with both sadness and delight. The delight was... So here's the thing, G. If other people say I've got volume problems, okay. But what I say with respect, your sound system's always been wacky for volume. And I don't know why. When Taizong heard these words, he was filled with both sadness and delight. The delight was caused by his pride in having a minister as good as Wei Zheng. If he had worthies of this kind in his court, he thought, need he worry about the security of his empire? He was saddened, however, by the fact that he had promised in his dream to save the dragon, and he had not anticipated that the dragon would be killed in this manner. He had to force himself to give the order to Shu Bao that the dragon head be hung on display at the market, so that the population of Chang'an might be informed. Meanwhile, he rewarded Wei Zheng, after which the various ministers dispersed. That night, he returned to his palace in deep depression, for he kept remembering the dragon in his dream, crying and begging for his life. Little did he expect that the turn of events would be such that the dragon still could not escape calamity. Having thought about the matter for a long time, he became physically and mentally drained. At about the hour of the second watch, the sound of weeping was heard outside the door of the palace, and Taizong became even more fearful. He was sleeping fitfully when he saw our dragon king of the Jing River holding his head dripping with blood in his hand and crying in a loud voice, "Tang Taizong, give me back my life! Give me back my life! Last night you were full of promises to save me. Why did you order a human judge in the daytime to have me executed? Come out! Come out! I'm going to argue this case with you before the king of the underworld." He seized Taizong and would neither let go nor desist from his protestation. Taizong could not say a word. He could only struggle until perspiration covered his entire body. Just at the moment when it seemed that nothing could separate them, fragrant clouds and colorful mists appeared from the south. A Taoist priestess came forward and waved a willow twig. That headless dragon, still mourning and weeping, left at once towards the northwest. For you see, this was none other than the Bodhisattva Guanyin, who by the decree of the Buddha was seeking a scripture pilgrim in the land of the east. She was staying in the temple of the local spirit at the city of Chang'an, when she heard in the night the weeping of demons and the crying of spirits. So she came specially to drive the accursed dragon away and to rescue the emperor. That dragon went directly to the court of the underworlds to file suit, of which we shall say no more. We now tell you about Taizong, who, when he awoke, could only yell aloud, "Ghost! Ghost! Ghost!" He was so terrified, the queens of 3 palaces, the concubines of 6 chambers, and the attending eunuchs, that they remained sleepless for the entire night. Yeah, I mean, does it breathe ghost fire, though, is the question we gotta resolve. Soon it was the 5th watch, and all the officials of the court, both civil and military, were waiting for an audience outside the gate. They waited until dawn, but the emperor did not appear, and every one of them became apprehensive and restless. Only after the sun was high in the sky did a proclamation come out saying, "We are not feeling too well. The ministers are excused from court. 5 or 6 days went by swiftly, and the various officials became so anxious that they were about to enter the court without summons and inquire after the throne. Just then, the queen mother gave the order to have the physician brought into the palace, and so the multitude waited at the gate of the court for some news. In a little while, the physician came out, and he was questioned about the emperor's illness. "The pulse of his majesty is irregular," said the physician, "for it is weak as well as rapid. He blabbers about seeing ghosts. I also perceive that there were 10 movements and 1 rest, but there is no breath in his viscera. I am afraid that he will pass away within 7 days." When the various ministers heard his statement, they paled with fright. In this state of alarm, they again heard that Taizong had summoned Shu Mugong, Hu Guogong, and Yuchigong to appear before him. The 3 ministers hurried into the auxiliary palace, where they prostrated themselves. Speaking somberly and with great effort, Taizong said, "My worthy subjects, since the age of 19, I have been leading my army in expeditions to the 4 corners of the earth. I have experienced much hardship throughout the years, but I have never encountered any kind of strange or weird thing. This day, however, I have seen ghosts." "When you established your empire," said Yuchigong, "you had to kill countless people. Why should you fear ghosts?" "You may not believe it," said Taizong, "but outside this bedroom of mine, at night, there are bricks thrown and spirits screaming to a degree that is truly unmanageable. In the daytime it's not too bad, but it's intolerable at night." "Let your majesty be relieved," said Shubao, "for this evening your subject and Jingde will stand guard at the palace gate. We shall see what sort of ghostly business there is." Taizong agreed to the proposal, and Mugong and the other ministers retired after expressing their gratitude. That evening the 2 ministers, in full battle dress and holding golden bludgeon and battle axe, stood guard outside the palace gate. "Dear generals, look how they are attired." They wore on their heads bright glimmering golden helmets, and on their bodies cuirasses of dragon scales. Their jeweled breastplates glow like hallowed clouds, with lion knots tightly drawn and silk sashes newly spun. This one had phoenix eyes, facing the sky to frighten the stars. The other had brown eyes glowering like lightning and the shining moon. They were once warriors of the greatest merit, but now they've become, for all time, the guardians of the gates, in all ages, the protectors of the home. The 2 generals stood beside the door for the entire night and did not see the slightest disturbance. That night, Taizong rested peacefully in the palace. When morning came, he summoned the 2 generals before him and thanked them profusely, saying, "Since falling ill, I haven't been able to sleep for days, and only last night did I manage to get some rest because of your presence. Let our worthy ministers retire now for some rest, so that we may count on your protection once again at night." The 2 generals left after expressing their gratitude, and for the following 2 or 3 nights their standing guard brought continued peace. However, the royal appetite diminished, and the illness became more severe. Taizong, moreover, could not bear to see the 2 generals overworked, so once again he called Shubao, Jingde, the ministers Du and Fang into the palace, saying to them, "Though I got some rest these past 2 days, I have imposed on the 2 generals the hardship of staying up all night. I wish to have portraits made of them by a skilled painter, and have these pasted on the door, so that the 2 generals will be spared any further labor. How about it?" The various ministers obeyed. They selected 2 portrait painters, who made pictures of the 2 generals in their proper battle attire. The portraits were then mounted near the gate, and no incident occurred during the night. So it was for 2 or 3 days, until the loud rattling of bricks and tiles was again heard at the rear gate of the palace. Apparently the ghosts got used to the scare pictures. The scare generals. At dawn, the emperor called together the various ministers, saying to them, "For the past few days there have been, happily, no incidents at the front of the palace, but last night the noises at the back door were such that they nearly frightened me to death." Mugong stepped forward and said, The disturbances at the front door were driven off by Jingde and Shu Bao. If there is disturbance at the rear gate, then Wei Zheng ought to stand guard. Tai Zong approved the suggestion and ordered Wei Zheng to guard the rear door that night. Accepting the charge, Wei donned his full court regalia that evening. Holding the sword with which he had slain the dragon, he stood at attention before the rear gate of the palace. Excuse me. What splendid heroic stature! Look how he is attired! Green satin turban swathes his brow. The silk robe's jade belt his waist hung. Wind-blown, crane-down sleeves fly like drifting snow. He bests liu and shoes divine looks. His feet wear black boots most supple. His hands hold a blade sharp and fierce. With glaring eyes, he stared at all four sides. Which deviant god dares approach? A whole night went by, and no ghost appeared. But though there were no incidents at either the front or the rear gate, the emperor's condition worsened. One day, the queen mother sent for all the ministers to discuss funeral arrangements. Taizong himself also summoned Shu Mugong to his bedside to entrust to him the affairs of state, committing the crown prince to the minister's care as Liu Bei did to Zhuge Liang. When he had finished speaking, he bathed and changed his garments, waiting for his time to come. Wei Zheng then stepped out from the side and tugged the royal garment with his hand, saying, "Let your majesty be relieved. Your subject knows something that will guarantee long life for your majesty." Look at him! My illness, said Taizong, has reached the irremediable stage. My life is in danger. How can you preserve it? Your subject has a letter here, said Wei, which I submit to your majesty to take with you to hell and to give to the judgment of the underworld, Ju. Who is Kui Ju? Asked Taizong. Kui Ju, said Wei, was the subject of the deceased emperor. Your father, at first, he was the district magistrate of Sizhu, and subsequently he was promoted to vice president of the Board of Rights. When he was alive, he was an intimate friend and sworn brother of your subject. Now that he is dead, he has become a judge in the capital of the underworld, having in his charge the chronicles of life and death in the region of darkness. How do you know this? He meets with me He meets with me frequently, however, in my dreams. If you go there presently and hand this letter to him, he will certainly remember his obligation towards your lowly subject and allow your majesty to return here. Surely your soul will return to the human world, and your royal countenance will once more grace the capital. When Taizong heard these words, he took the letter in his hands and put it in his sleeve. With that, he closed his eyes and died. Those queens and concubines from 3 palaces and 6 chambers, the crown prince, and the 2 rows of civil and military officials all put on their mourning garb to mourn him, as the imperial coffin lay in state at the Hall of the White Tiger. But we shall say no more of that. We do not know how the soul of Taizong came back. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. Dun dun dun! Well, the chapter heading kind of does remove some of the suspense. Having toured the underworld, Taizong returns to life. Ta-da! Well, I think partially also you've got to remember that Wei Zheng's got connections down there. I don't know about yourself, but I know I don't have any connections in the underworld, so it may not work so well in my favor. They may also have slightly different ideas of hell, I suspect. Like, I guess Chinese hell is just simply where everybody goes, and it's just, this is the place of dead people. A bit sort of Aztec-y, I suppose. The poem says, 100 years pass like flowing streams. Like froth and foam, a lifetime's work now seems. Yesterday faces had a peach's glow. Today the temples float up on flakes of snow. Termites disband. Illusion then you'll learn. Cuckoos call gravely for your early return. Secret good works will always life prolong. Virtue's not needy, for heaven's care is strong. We tell you now about Taizong, whose soul drifted out of the Tower of Five Phoenixes. Everything was blurred and indistinct. It seemed to him that a company of Imperial Guardsmen was inviting him to a hunting party, to which Taizong gladly gave his consent and went off with them. They had journeyed for a long time, when suddenly all the men and horses vanished from sight. He was left alone, walking the deserted fields and desolate plains. As he anxiously tried to find his way back, he heard someone from beyond calling in a loud voice. Oh, I'm sorry, Montrose. I mean, I'm sure you're well connected, actually. I wouldn't dare suppose otherwise. I was just talking about myself. Great Tang Emperor, come over here! Come over here! Taizong heard this and looked up. He saw that the man had a black gauze cap on his head, rhinoceros horns around his waist, his head's black gauze hat, as opposed to his other hat, displayed plates of gold. His head's black gauze hat dangled pliant beads. His waist's rhino horns displayed plates of gold. He held an ivory plaque sheathed in hollowed mist. He wore a silk robe circled by holy light. His feet put on a pair of white-soled boots. For treading cloud and climbing fog, he grasped by his heart a book of life and death, which determined one's fate. His hair, luxuriant, flew above his ears. His beard fluttered and danced around his jaws. He was once a prime minister of Tang. Now he judged cases to serve Yama King. Taizong walked towards him, and the man, kneeling at the side of the road, said to him, Your Majesty, please pardon your subject for neglecting to meet you at a greater distance. Who are you? Asked Taizong, and for what reason did you come to meet me? The man said, 1/2 a month ago, your lowly subject met in the halls of darkness the dragon ghost of the Jing River, who was filing suit against your Majesty for having him executed after promising to save him. So the great King Guang of the First Chamber immediately sent demon messengers to arrest you and bring you to trial before the 3 tribunes. Your subject learned of this and therefore came here to receive you. I did not expect to come late today, and I beg you to forgive me. What is your name? Said Taizong, and what is your rank? When your lowly subject was alive, said that man, he served on earth before the previous emperor as the district magistrate of Sizhou. Afterwards, I was appointed vice president of the Board of Rights. My surname is Kui, and my given name is Ju. In the region of darkness, I hold a judgeship in the capital of death. Man, that's metal. Taizong was very glad. He went forward and held out his royal hands to raise the man up, saying, I am sorry to have inconvenienced you. Wei Zhang, who serves before my throne, has a letter for you. I'm glad that we have a chance to meet here. The judge expressed his gratitude and asked where the letter was. Taizong took it out of his sleeve and handed it over to Kri Ju, who received it, bowing, and then opened it and read, Your unworthy beloved brother Wei Zhang sends with bowed head this letter to the great judge, my sworn brother, the Honorable Mr. Kri. I recall our former goodly society, and both your voice and your countenance seem to be present with me. Several years have hastened by since I last heard your lofty discourse. I could only prepare a few vegetables and fruits to offer to you as sacrifices during the festive times of the year, though I do not know whether you have enjoyed them or not. I am grateful, however, that you have not forgotten me, and that you have revealed to me in my dreams that you, my elder brother, have ascended to an even higher office. Unfortunately, the worlds of light and darkness are separated by a gulf wide as the heavens, so that we cannot meet face to face. The reason that I am writing to you now is the sudden demise of my emperor, the accomplished Taizong, whose case, I suppose, will be reviewed by the 3 tribunes, so that he will certainly be given the opportunity to meet you. I earnestly beseech you to remember our friendship while you were living, and grant me the small favor of allowing His Majesty to return to life. This will be a very great favor to me, for which I thank you once more. Well, you know, if you love your job, if you love what you do, is it really a job? After reading the letter, the judge said with great delight, The execution of the old dragon the other day by the human Judge Wei is already known to your subject, who greatly admires him for this deed. I am, moreover, indebted to him for looking after my children. Since he has written such a letter now, your majesty need have no further concern. Your lowly subject will make sure that you will be returned to life to ascend once more your throne of jade. Taizong thanked him. As the two of them were speaking, they saw in the distance two young boys in blue robes holding banners and flags and calling out, "The king of the underworld has an invitation for you." Taizong went forward with Judge Kui and the two boys. He suddenly saw a huge city, and on a large plaque above the city gate was the inscription in gold letters, "The region of darkness, the gate of spirits." Waving the banners, the blue robes led Taizong into the city. As they walked along, they saw at the side of the street the emperor's predecessor, Li Yuan, his elder brother Jian Cheng, and his deceased brother Yuan Ji, who came forward. Wow, that's why I messed that up. It's ungrammatical. It is grammatical. I'm just bad at this. Who came toward them shouting, "Here comes Shimin! Here comes Shimin!" The brothers clutched at Taizong and began beating him and threatening vengeance. Having no place to dodge, the emperor fell into their clutch, and only when Judge Kui called a blue-faced, hook-tusked demon to drive them away could he escape and continue his journey. They had traveled no more than a few miles when they arrived at a towering edifice with green tiles. This building was truly magnificent. You see, lightly 10,000 folds of colored mist pile high. Dimly 1,000 strands of crimson broom appear. Heads of wild beasts rear up from the eaves aglow. Pairs of lambent roof tiles rise in tiers of 5. Rows of red gold nails bore deeply into doors. Crosswise, slabs of white jade make up the rails. Windows near the lights release morning smoke. The screens, the curtains, flash like fiery bolts. High-rising towers reach to the azure sky. Crisscrossing hallways join the treasure rooms. Fragrance from beast-shaped tripods line royal robes. Scarlet silk lanterns brighten the portal's leaves. On the left, hordes of fierce bullheads stand. On the right, gruesome horse faces line up. Gold placards turn to greet the ghosts of the dead. White silk descends to lead the deceased souls. It bears this name, the Central Gate of Hell, the Darkness Hall of the Prince of Hades. As Taizong was looking at the place, there came from within the tinkling of girdled jade, the mysterious fragrance of divine incense, and 2 pairs of torch candles, followed by the 10 kings of the underworld coming down the steps. The 10 kings were King Qingguang, King of the Beginning River, King of the Song Emperor, King of Avenging Ministers, King Yama, King of Equal Ranks, King of the Tai Mountain, King of City Markets, King of Complete Change, and King of the Turning Wheel. Coming out of the Treasure Hall of Darkness, they bowed to receive Taizong, who, feigning modesty, declined to lead the way. The 10 kings said, "Your Majesty is the Emperor of men in the world of light, whereas we are but the King of spirits in the world of darkness. Such are indeed our appointed stations, so why should you defer to us?" "I'm afraid that I have offended all of you," said Taizong. "So how can I dare to speak of observing the etiquette of ghosts and men, of light and darkness?" Only after much protestation did Taizong proceed into the Hall of Darkness. After he had greeted the 10 kings properly, they sat down according to the places assigned to hosts and guests. Everything's a bureaucracy. Bullhead and horseface. Is that literally what they're called, though? Or is that just like some kind of pejorative? Or is it invective? There's another word for it and I've forgotten. I did promise him. Okay. After a little while, King Guang folded his hands in front of him and came forward saying, "The dragon spirit of the Jing River accuses your majesty of having him slain after promising to save him." "Why?" "Yeah, I think it's Let's worry about this later. Um, it wasn't a pejorative, though. I did promise him that nothing would happen, said Taizong, when the old dragon appeared to me in my dream at night. He was guilty, and was condemned to be executed by the human judge Wei Zhang. It was to save him that I invited Wei Zhang to play chess with me, not anticipating that Wei Zhang could have performed the execution in his dream. This was indeed a miraculous stratagem devised by the human judge, and, after all, the dragon was also guilty of a mortal offense. I fail to see how I am to blame. When the 10 kings heard these words, they replied, bowing, even before that dragon was born, it was already written on the book of death, held by the star of South Pole, that he should be slain by a human judge. We have known this all along, but the dragon lodged his complaint here and insisted that your majesty be brought down so that his case might be reviewed by the 3 tribunes. We have already sent him on his way to his next incarnation through the wheel of transmigration. We regret, however, that we have caused your majesty the inconvenience of this journey, and we beg your pardon for pressing you to come here. When they had finished speaking, they ordered the judge in charge of the books of life and death to bring out the records quickly so that they could ascertain what the allotted time of the emperor was to be. Judge Kui went at once to his chamber and examined, one by one, the ages preordained for all the kings in the world that were inscribed in the books. Startled when he saw that the great Tang Emperor Taizong of the South Jambudvipa continent was destined to die in the 13th year of the period Zhangguan, he quickly dipped his big brush in thick ink and added 2 strokes before presenting the book. The 10 kings took one look and saw that 33 years was written beneath the name Taizong. They asked in alarm, "How long has it been since your majesty was enthroned?" "It has been 13 years, said Taizong. "Your majesty need have no worry, said King Yama, "for you still have 20 years of life. Now that your case has been clearly reviewed, we can send you back to the world of light." When Taizong heard this, he bowed to express his gratitude as the 10 kings ordered Judge Kui and Grand Marshal Chu to accompany him back to life. Taizong walked out of the Hall of Darkness and asked, saluting the 10 kings once again, "What's going to happen to those living in my palace?" "Everyone will be safe," said the 10 kings, "except your younger sister. It appears that she will not live long." "When I return to the world of light," said Taizong, bowing again to thank them, "I have very little that I can present to you as a token of my gratitude. Perhaps I can send you some melons or other kinds of fruit?" Delighted, the 10 kings said, "We have eastern and western melons here, but we lack southern melons." "The moment I get back," said Taizong, "I shall send you some." They bowed to each other with hands folded and parted. The marshal took the lead, holding a flag for guiding souls, while Judge Kui followed behind to protect Taizong. They walked out of the region of darkness, and Taizong saw that it was not the same road. He asked the judge, "Are we going on the wrong way?" "No," said the judge, "for this is how it is in the region of darkness. There is a way for you to come, but there is no way out. Now we must send your majesty off from the region of the Wheel of Transmigration so that you can make a tour of hell as well as be sent on your way to reincarnation." Taizong had little alternative but to follow their lead. They had only gone a few miles when they came upon a tall mountain. Dark clouds touched the ground around it, and black mists shrouded the sky. "Mr. Kui," said Taizong, "what mountain is this?" The judge said, "It's the mountain of perpetual shade in the region of darkness." "How can we go there?" asked Taizong fearfully. "Your majesty need not worry," said the judge, "for your subjects are here to guide you." Shaking and quaking, Taizong followed the 2 of them and ascended the slope. He raised his head to look around and saw that its shape was both craggy and curvate, and its form was even more tortuous. Rugged like the Shu peaks, tall like the Lu summits, it was not a famed mountain in the world of light, but a treacherous place in the region of darkness. Thickets of thorns sheltered monsters. Tiers of stone ridges harbored demons. No sound of fowl or beast came to one's ears. Only ghosts or griffins walked before one's eyes. The howling cold wind, the endless black mists. The howling cold wind was the huffing of infernal hosts. The endless black mists was the puffing of demonic troops. There was no scenic splendor, though one looked high and low. All was desolation when one stared left and right. At that place there were mountains, and peaks, and summits, and caves, and streams. Only no grass grew on the mountains. No peaks punctured the sky. No traveler scaled the summits. No caves ever harbored the clouds. No water flowed in the streams. They were all specters on the shores, and bogies beneath the cliffs. The phantoms huddled in the phantoms huddled in the caves, and the lost souls hid on stream floors. All around the mountain, bullheads and horse faces wildly clamored, "There they are!" Half hidden and half in sight, hungry ghosts and needy souls often wept. The judge in quest of souls, in haste and fury, delivered his summons. The guard who chased the spirits snorted and shouted to present his papers. The swift of foot, a boiling cyclone. The soul snatcher, a spreading dark mist. Had he not trusted in the judge's protection, Taizong would never have made it across this mountain of perpetual shade. As they proceeded, they came to a place where there were many halls and chambers. Everywhere they turned, melancholy cries blasted their ears and grotesque sights struck terror in their hearts. "What is this place?" asked Taizong again. "The 18-fold hell behind the mountain of perpetual shade," said the judge. "What is that?" said Taizong. The judge replied, "Listen to what I have to say." Huh. What a great ruler you are. Please don't kill me. The hell of the rack, the hell of gloomy guilt, the hell of the fiery pit, all such sorrow, all such desolation, are caused by 1,000 sins committed in the life before. They all come to suffer after they die. The hell of Hades, the hell of tongue pulling, the hell of skin shredding, all those weeping and wailing, all those pining and mourning, await the traitors, the rebels, and the heaven baiters. He of Buddha mouth and serpent heart will end up here. The hell of grinding, the hell of pounding, the hell of crushing, with frayed skin and torn flesh, gaping mouths and grinding teeth. These are they who cheat and lie to work injustice, who fawn and flatter to deceive. The hell of ice, the hell of mutilation, the hell of evisceration, with grimy face and matted hair, knitted brow and doleful look. These are they who fleece the simple with weights unjust, and so bring ruin upon themselves. That was also the hell of being a very wise old man, gee. Right. The hell of boiling oil, the hell of grim darkness, the hell of the sword mountain. They shake and quake, they sorrow and pine, for oppressing the righteous by violence and fraud. They must now cower in their lonely pain. The hell of the pool of blood, the hell of Avicii, the hell of scales and weights, all the skins peeled and bones exposed, the limbs cut and tendons severed, are caused by murder stemming from greed, the taking of life of both humans and beasts. Their fall has no reversal in 1,000 years, eternal perdition without release. Each is firmly bound and tightly tied, shackled by both ropes and cords. The slightest move brings on the red-haired demons, the black-faced demons, with long spears and sharp swords, the bull-head demons, the horse-faced demons, with iron spikes and bronze gavels. They strike till faces contort and blood flows down. But cries to earth and heaven find no response. So it is that man ought not his own conscience betray, for gods have knowledge, who could get away? Thus, vice and virtue will at last be paid. It differs only in coming, soon or late. When Taizong heard these words, he was terror-stricken. They went on for a little while, and came upon a group of demon soldiers, each holding banners and flags, and kneeling beside the road. "The guards of the bridges have come to receive you," they said. The judge ordered them to make way and proceed to lead Taizong across a golden bridge. Looking to one side, Taizong saw another silver bridge, on which there were several travelers who seemed to be persons of principle and rectitude, justice and honesty. They, too, were led by banners and flags. On the other side was another bridge, with icy wind churning around it and bloody waves seething below. The continuous sound of weeping and wailing could be heard. "What is the name of that bridge?" asked Taizong. "Your Majesty," said the judge, "it is the no-option bridge. When you reach the world of light, you must have this recorded for posterity." That's neat. I really didn't know much of the history about it, other than it was written by one individual, and it was more recent than I thought. Okay. "For below the bridge there is nothing but a vast body of surging water, a straight and treacherous path, like bales of raw silk flowing down the long river, or the pit of fire floating up to earth. This cold air, oppressive, this bone-piercing chill, this foul stench, both irksome and nauseous. The waves roll and swirl. No boat comes or goes to ferry men across. With naked feet and tangled hair, those moving here and there are all damned spirits. The bridge is a few miles long, but only 3 spans wide. Its height measures 100 feet, below 1,000 fathoms deep. On top are no railways for hands to hold. Beneath you have man-seizing savage fiends, who, bound by kangs and locks, fight to flee no option's parlous path. Look at these ferocious guardians beside the bridge. And those damned souls in the river, how truly wretched! On branches and twigs, clothes of green, red, yellow, and purple silk hang. Below the precipice, strumpets crouch for having abused their own in-laws. Iron dogs and brass serpents will strive to feed on them. Their fall's eternal. There is no way out." The poem says, "Ghosts are heard wailing, demons often cry, as waves of blood rise 10,000 feet high. Horse faces and bull heads by countless scores this no-option bridge grimly fortify." Strumpets. Well, I guess if the monk was eating the wrong kind of mushrooms as he's having his trip, it may have sort of accentuated the journey a little bit. While Taizong and his guides were speaking, the several guardians of the bridge went back to their station. Terrified by his vision, Taizong could only nod his head in silent horror. He followed the judge and the grand marshal across the malicious water of the no-option bridge and the bitter realm of the bloody bowl. That had a lot of alliteration to it. Soon they arrived at the city of the dead, where clamoring voices were heard proclaiming distinctly, "Li Shimin has come! Li Shimin has come!" When Taizong heard all this shouting, his heart shook and his gall quivered. Then he saw a throng of spirits, some with backs broken by the rack, some with severed limbs, and some headless, who barred his way and shouted together, "Give us back our lives! Give us back our lives!" In terror, Taizong tried desperately to flee and hide, at the same time crying, "Mr. Kui, save me! Mr. Kui, save me!" "Your Majesty," said the judges, "these are the spirits of various princes and their underlings, of brigands and robbers from sundry places. Through works of injustice, both theirs and others, they perished and are now cut off from salvation, because there is none to receive them or care for them. Since they have no money or belongings, they are ghosts abandoned to hunger and cold. Only if your Majesty can give them some money will I be able to offer your deliverance." "I came here," said Taizong, "with empty hands. Where can I get money?" "Your Majesty," said the judge, "there is in the world of the living a man who has deposited great sums of gold and silver in our region of darkness. You can use your name for a loan, and your lowly judge will serve as your voucher. We shall borrow a roomful of money from him and distribute it among the hungry ghosts. You will then be able to get past them." "Who is this man?" asked Taizong. "He's a man from the Kaifeng district in Henan province," said the judge. "His given name is Liang, and his surname is Xiang. He has 13 rooms of gold and silver down here. If your majesty borrows from him, you can repay him when you return to the world of light." Highly pleased and more than willing to use his name for the loan, Taizong at once signed a note for the judge. He borrowed a roomful of gold and silver, and the Grand Marshal was asked to distribute the money among the ghosts. The judge also instructed them, saying, "You may divide up these pieces of silver and gold among yourselves and use them accordingly. Let the great Tang father pass, for he still has a long time to live. By the solemn word of the 10 kings, I am accompanying him to return to life. When he reaches the world of the living, he has been instructed to hold a grand mass of land and water for your salvation. So don't start any more trouble." When the ghosts, hang on, I'm going to read what was being typing here. Yeah, it seemed very, I mean, there were a bunch of words in this that seemed like they came from India. It didn't seem like they were Chinese words. So it just felt like, yeah, it felt like it was translated by somebody who wasn't originally English, for lack of a better explanation. When the ghosts heard these words and received the silver and gold, they obeyed and turned back. The judge ordered the Grand Marshal to wave the flag for guiding souls, and led Taizong out of the city of the dead. They set out again on a broad and level path, leaving quickly with light, airy steps. They traveled for a long time and arrived at the junction of the sixfold path of transmigration. They saw some people who rode the clouds wearing embroidered capes, and some with Taoist amulets of goldfish dangling from their waists. There were, in fact, monks, nuns, Taoists, and secular persons, and all varieties of beasts and fowls, ghosts and spirits. I mean, backing up a little bit, though, this thing came to me, because they're also saying that people have their lifespans and what will do them in written into the book. So it seems like you're supposed to do all this, but you're also fated to do all of this, or something. It's not like there's really that necessarily a choice in how you transmigrate. It's peculiar. In an unending stream, they all ran beneath the wheel of transmigration to enter each into a predestined path. "What is the meaning of this?" asked the Tang Emperor. "Your Majesty," said the judge, "as your mind is enlightened to perceive the pervasive immanence of the Buddha nature in all things, you must remember this and proclaim it in the world of the living. This is called the sixfold path of transmigration. Those who perform good works will ascend to the way of the immortals. Those who remain patriotic to the end will advance to the way of nobility. Those who practice filial piety, will be born again into the way of blessing. Those who are just and honest will enter once more into the way of humans. Those who cherish virtue will proceed to the way of riches. Those who are vicious and violent will fall back into the way of demons." When the Tang Emperor heard this, he nodded his head and sighed, saying, "Ah, how truly good is goodness! To do good will never bring illness. In a good heart always abide. On a good way your door fling wide. Let no evil thoughts arise, and all mischief you must despise. Don't say there's no retribution, for gods have their distribution." The judge accompanied the Tang Emperor up to the very entrance to the way of nobility before he prostrated himself and called out, "Your Majesty, this is where you must proceed, and here your humble judge will take leave of you. I am asking Grand Marshal Zhu to accompany you a little further." The Tang Emperor thanked him, saying, "I'm sorry, sir, that you have had to travel such great distance on my account." "When your Majesty returns to the world of light," said the judge, "be very certain that you celebrate the grand mass of land and water, so that these wretched homeless souls may be delivered. Please do not forget. Only if there is no murmuring for vengeance in the region of darkness will there be the prosperity of peace in your world of light. If there are any wicked ways in your life, you must change them one by one, and you must teach your subjects far and wide to do good. You may be assured then that your empire will be firmly established and that your fame will go down to posterity." The Tang Emperor promised to grant each one of the judge's requests. Having parted from Judge Kui, he followed Grand Marshal Zhu and entered the gate. The Grand Marshal saw inside a black-maned bay horse, complete with rein and saddle. Lending the Emperor assistance from left and right, he quickly helped him mount it. The horse shot forward like an arrow, and soon they reached the bank of the Wei River, where a pair of golden carps could be seen frolicking on top of the waves. Pleased by what he saw, the Tang Emperor reined in his horse and stopped to watch. "Your Majesty," said the Grand Marshal, "let's hurry and get you back into your city while there is still time." But the Emperor persisted in his indulgence and refused to go forward. The Grand Marshal grabbed one of his legs and shouted, "You still won't move? What are you waiting for?" With a loud splash, he was pushed off his horse into the Wei River, and thus he left the region of darkness and returned to the world of light. We shall now tell you about those who served before the throne in the Tang dynasty: Shu Mugang, Qin Shubao, Hu Jingde, Duan Zixian, Mao Sanbao, Chen Yaojin, Gao Shilian, Li Shiji, Feng Xiongling, Du Ruhui, Xiao Yu, Fu Yi, Zhang Daoyuan, Zhang Shiheng, and Wang Gui consisted of the two groups of civil and military officials. They gathered with the crown prince of the Eastern Palace, the queen, the ladies of the court, and the chief steward in the Hall of the White Tiger for the imperial mourning. At the same time, they discussed issuing the obituary proclamation for the whole empire and crowning the prince as emperor. From one side of the hall, Wei Zhang stepped forward and said, "All of you, please refrain from doing anything hasty. If you alarm the various districts and cities, you may bring about something undesirable and unexpected. Let's wait here for another day, for our lord will surely come back to life." "What nonsense you are talking, Prime Minister Wei," said Shu Jingzong, coming from below. "For the ancient proverb says, just as spilled water cannot be retrieved, so a dead man can never return. Why do you mouth such empty words to vex our minds? What reason do you have for this?" "To tell you the truth, Mr. Shu," said Wei Zhang, "I have been instructed since my youth in the arts of immortality. My calculations are most accurate, and I promise you that His Majesty will not die." As they were talking, they suddenly heard a loud voice crying in the coffin, "You've drowned me! You've drowned me!" It so startled the civil and military officials, so terrified the queen and ladies, that every one of them had a face brown as autumnal mulberry leaves, a body limp as the willow of early spring. The legs of the crown prince buckled. He could not hold the mourning staff to finish his rites. The soul of the steward left him. He could not wear the mourning cap to show his grief. The matrons collapsed. The ladies pitched sideways. The matrons collapsed like weak hibiscus blasted by savage wind. The ladies pitched sideways like lilies overwhelmed by sudden rain. The petrified lords, their bones and tendons feeble, trembled and shook, all dumb and awestruck. The whole White Tiger Hall was like a bridge with broken beams. The funeral stage resembled a temple wrecked. Every person attending the court ran away, and no one dared approach the coffin. Only the upright Shu Mugang, the rational Prime Minister Wei, the courageous King Qiang, and the impulsive Jingde came forward and took hold of the coffin. Oh, you. We need some kind of yeah. "Your Majesty," they cried, "if there's something bothering you, tell us about it. Don't play ghost and terrify your relatives." Then, however, Wei Zhang said, "He's not playing ghost. His Majesty is coming back to life. Get some tools, quick." They opened the top of the coffin and saw indeed that Taizong was sitting up inside, still shouting, "You've drowned me! Who bailed me out?" Mugong and the rest of them went forward to lift him up, saying, "Don't be afraid, Your Majesty, and wake up. Your subjects are here to protect you." Only then did the Tang Emperor open his eyes and say, "How I suffered just now! I barely escaped attack by spiteful demons from the region of darkness, only to encounter death by drowning." "Have no fear, your majesty," said the ministers. "What sort of calamity occurred in the water?" "I was riding a horse," the Tang Emperor said, "when we came near the Wei River where two fishes were playing. That deceitful Grand Marshal Zhu pushed me off my horse into the river, and I was almost drowned." "His Majesty is still not entirely free from the influences of the dead," said Wei Zhang. He quickly ordered from the imperial dispensary medicinal broth designed to calm his spirit and fortify his soul. They also prepared some rice gruel, and only after taking such nourishments once or twice did he become his old self again, fully regaining his living senses. A quick calculation revealed that the Tang Emperor had been dead for 3 days and nights, and then returned to life to rule again. I tripped over that one. We thus have a testimonial poem. From ancient times, how oft the world has changed. History is full of kingdoms that rise and fall. Countless were the wonders of Zhu, Han, and Jin, which could match King Tang's from death to life recall. By then it was dusk. The various ministers withdrew after they had seen the emperor retire. The next day, they took off their mourning garb and changed into their court attire. Everyone had on his red robe and black cap, his purple sash and gold medal, waiting outside the gate to be summoned to court. We now tell you about Taizong, who, having received the medicine prescribed for calming his spirit and fortifying his soul, and having taken the rice broth several times, was carried into his bedchamber by his attendants. He slept soundly that whole night, and when he arose at dawn, his spirit was fully revived. Look how he was attired! He donned a tall royal cap. He wore a dark ochre robe. He put on a belt of green jade from Blue Mountain. He trod a pair of empire-building carefree boots. Oh, sorry. His stunning looks surpassed anyone in court. With power to spare, he resumed his reign. What a great Tang Emperor of justice and truth, the majestic Li, who rose again from the dead! The Tang Emperor went up to the treasure hall of the Golden Carriage and gathered together the two groups of civil and military officials, who, after shouting, "Long live the Emperor!" 3 times, stood in attention according to rank and file. Then they heard this loud announcement: "If there is any business, come forth and make your memorial. If there is no business, you are dismissed from court." From the east came the row of civil officials, and from the west came the row of military officials. They all went forward and prostrated themselves before the steps of white jade. "Your Majesty," they said, "may we inquire how you awoke from your slumber which lasted so long?" "On that day, after we had received the letter from Wei Zhang," said Taizong, "we felt that our soul had departed from these halls, having been invited by the imperial guardsmen to join a hunting party. As we were traveling, the men and horses both disappeared, whereupon my father, the former emperor, and my deceased brothers came to hassle us. We would not have been able to escape them had it not been for the arrival of someone in black cap and robe. This man happened to be the judge Kui Ju, who managed to send my deceased brothers away. We handed Wei Zheng's letter over to him, and as he was reading it, some boys in blue came to lead us with flags and banners to the Hall of Darkness, where we were met by the 10 kings of the underworld. They told us of the Jing River Dragon, who accused us of having him slain after promising to save him. We in turn explained to them what happened, and they assured us that our case had been jointly reviewed by the 3 tribunes." No, they were literally boys in blue. I think you might have missed that part. They just basically said, "Hey, we've got a notice for you. Come this way." And then the judge and the emperor followed the boys. Okay. They then asked for the chronicles of life and death to examine what was to be our allotted age. Judge Kui presented his books, and King Yama, after checking them, said that heaven had assigned us a portion of 33 years. Since we had ruled for only 13 years, we were entitled to 20 more years of living. So, Grand Marshal Zhu and Judge Kui were ordered to send us back here. We took leave of the 10 kings and promised to thank them with gifts of melons and other fruits. After our departure from the Hall of Darkness, we encountered in the underworld all those who were treasonous to the state and disloyal to their parents, those who practiced neither virtue nor righteousness, those who squandered the 5 grains, those who cheated openly or in secret, those who indulged in unjust weights and measurements, in sum, the rapists, the thieves, the liars, the hypocrites, the wantons, the deviates, the connivers, and the lawbreakers. They were all suffering from various tortures by grinding, burning, pounding, sawing, frying, boiling, hanging, and skinning. I feel like this is starting to get sort of a Rabelais-esque list there. There were tens of thousands of them, and we could not make an end of this ghastly sight. Thereafter we passed by the city of the dead, filled with the souls of brigands and bandits from all over the earth, who came to block our path. Fortunately, Judge Kui was willing to vouch for us, and we could then borrow a room full of gold and silver from Old Man Xiang of Henan to buy off the spirits before we could proceed once more. We finally parted after Judge Kui had repeatedly instructed us that when we returned to the world of light, we were to celebrate a grand mass of land and water for the salvation of those orphaned spirits. After leaving the 6-fold path of transmigration, Grand Marshal Zhu asked us to mount a horse so swift it seemed to be flying, and brought me to the bank of the Wei River. There's criminals everywhere. As we were enjoying the sight of 2 fishes playing in the water, he grabbed our legs and pushed us into the river. Only then did we come back to life. When the various ministers heard these words, they all praised and congratulated the emperor. Well done. A notice was also sent out to every town and district in the empire, and all the officials presented gratulatory memorials, which we shall mention no further. We shall now tell you about Taizong, who proclaimed a general amnesty for the prisoners in the empire. Moreover, he asked for an inventory of those convicted of capital crimes, and the judge from the Board of Justice submitted some 400 names of those awaiting death by beheading or hanging. Taizong granted them 1 year's leave to return to their families so that they could settle their affairs and put their property in order before going to the marketplace to receive their just deserts. The prisoners all thanked him for such grace before departing. After issuing another edict for the care and welfare of orphans, Taizong also released some 3,000 court maidens and concubines from the palace and married them off to worthy military officers. From that time on, his reign was truly a virtuous one, to which we have a testimonial poem. Oddly, the criminals never returned for their beheadings. Great is the virtue of the great Tang ruler. Surpassing sage kings, he makes his people prosper. 500 convicts may now leave the prison. 3,000 maidens find release from the palace. The empire's officials all wish him long life. The ministers at court all give him high praise. Such good heart, once stirred, the heavens should bless, and pass such weal to 17 generations. Man, what could you do with 3,000 maidens anyway? That's madness. After releasing the court maidens and convicts, Taizong also issued another proclamation to be posted throughout the empire. The proclamation read, "The cosmos, though vast, is brightly surveyed by the sun and the moon. The world, though immense, approves not villains in heaven or on earth. If your intent is trickery, even this life will bring retribution. If your giving exceeds receiving, there's blessing not only in the life hereafter. 1,000 clever designs are not as living according to one's duties. 10,000 men of violence cannot compare with one frugal and content." I tell myself this. If you're bent on good words, good works, and mercy, need you read the sutras with diligence? If you intend to harm others, even the learning of Buddha is in vain. From that time on, there was not a single person in the empire who did not practice virtue. Meanwhile, another notice was posted asking for a volunteer to take the melons and other fruits to the region of darkness. At the same time, a room full of gold and silver from the treasury was sent with the imperial duke of Khotan, Hu Jingde, to the Kaifeng district of Henan so that the debt to Xianglang could be repaid. After the notice had been posted for some days, a worthy came to volunteer his life for the mission. He was originally from Zhengzhou. His surname was Liu, and his given name was Quan, and he belonged to a family of great wealth. The reason he came forward was that his wife, Li Kuilian, happened to have been given a gold hairpin from her head by way of alms to a monk in front of their house. When Liu Quan chided her for her indiscretion in flaunting herself outside their home, Li became so upset that she promptly hanged herself, leaving behind her a pair of young children who wept piteously day and night. Liu Quan was so filled with remorse by the sight of them that he was willing to leave life and property to take the melons to hell. He therefore took down the royal notice and came to see the Tang Emperor. The emperor ordered him to go to the lodge of the Golden Pavilion, where a pair of southern melons were put on his head, some money in his sleeve, and some medicine in his mouth. So, Liu Quan died by taking poison. His soul, still bearing the fruits on his head, arrived at the Gate of Spirits. The demon guardian at the door shouted, "Who are you that dare to come here?" "By the imperial command of the great Tang Emperor Taizong," said Liu Quan, "I came here especially to present melons and other fruits for the enjoyment of the 10 kings of the underworld." The demon guardian received him amiably and led him to the treasure hall of darkness. When he saw King Yama, he presented the melons, saying, "By order of the Tang Emperor, I came from afar to present these melons as a token of thanks for the gracious hospitality of the 10 kings." Highly pleased, King Yama said, "That Emperor Taizong is certainly a man of his word." He accepted the melons and proceeded to ask the messenger about his name and his home. "Your humble servant," said Liu Quan, "resided originally in Zhengzhou. My surname is Liu, and my given name is Quan. Because my wife hanged herself, leaving no one to care for our children, I decided to leave home and children and sacrifice my life for the country by helping my emperor to take these melons here as a thank offering." When the 10 kings heard these words, they asked at once for Li, the wife of Liu Quan. She was brought in by the demon guardian, and wife and husband had a reunion before the Hall of Darkness. They conversed about what happened, and also thanked the 10 kings for this meeting. King Yama, moreover, examined the books of life and death, and found that both husband and wife were supposed to live to a ripe old age. He quickly ordered the demon guardian to take them back to life, but the guardian said, "Since Li Kuilian has been back in the world of darkness for many days, her body no longer exists. To whom should her soul attach herself?" "The emperor's sister, Li Yuying," said King Yama, "is destined to die very soon. Borrow her body right away, so that this woman can return to life." It's like, I don't want to deal with these Yaoling kids. They're so bad, I just need to kill myself. The demon guardian obeyed the order and led Liu Quan and his wife out of the region of darkness to return to life. We do not know how the two of them returned to life. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter.